What did you frick up and then sneak away before anyone noticed who did it? I accidentally tore one of my $300 college textbooks down the spine right before I had to return it. I really didn't want to pay to replace it, so I just took a bunch of tape and taped the book back together from the inside. Amazingly, they never noticed. To whoever may be using that book now, I'm so sorry. My cat puked in my book when it was open. It's a rental and I have to return it next week. I hope no one notices. When I was 13, I tried to do something nice for my parents when they were out. I was going to wash my mom's car. I tried to back it out of the garage. I failed and hit the garage. Not too bad, but enough to pull the black rubber thing off the car door. A friend of my older brother helped me glue it back on and put car back into the garage. My mom worked at a mall and came home the next day and told my dad about some jerk that hit her car and drove away. I still haven't confessed. It's been almost 20 years. Back it out of the garage. Here in my garage. My dad took me along to a camping trip with his grown-up friends. One of his friends was a pretty good carpenter, and while they were drinking around the fire, he worked on this cool snake staff carved from driftwood. Later in the evening, I accidentally broke the head off the staff. I pushed it back together as hard as I could so it sort of just stuck like that, and laid it back down carefully near the guy who made it. He was pretty hammered by this time, and a few minutes later, he took his staff and did like a hop over it, like a leapfrog type of thing, and his weight caused the staff to fall apart to the original breaking point. Everyone thought he broke it. I was free and clear. I think if you hadn't broken in to begin with, that move would have broken it anyway, so no regrets. Drive a commercial truck into an awning. Before my company could tell the property owners, a food truck did the same thing but worse and covered it all up. The all 2 truck cover up never gets sold. I dropped a gallon jug of water at Walmart. It burst open, and before I could go find an employee to ask for some paper towels, someone pulled down the rack bar that runs along the soda rack and holds up all the sodas. Easily over 200 2-liter bottles on the shelf came tumbling down and exploding all over the floor. Should have seized the moment and knocked something even bigger down. Maybe the whole store would join in. I dropped a friend's Xbox controller on the ground and it permanently wrecked the joysticks. When you would just sit there, it would move up, making things very annoying. I then went to Walmart, bought a new controller, replaced the new controller with the old one and returned it. Now that's a friend move. I crap my pants during pool day at summer daycare, or whatever you call it. Ages ranged from 5-12. I think I was 7 at the time. I managed to maneuver the turd out of my shorts and into a corner where nobody was looking. 10 minutes later, everyone was crowded around looking at my turd. I joined in to avoid raising suspicion. Nobody ever found out. I knocked over my boyfriend's birthday cake. It was an outdoor joint birthday party with his best friend. I bumped into the corner of it and it hit the grass. I left the scene. I admitted it to him in our wedding vows. Pulled up to a stoplight and there was no one around, but I was in the crosswalk. So I put it in reverse and I hear a thud. I throw it in park and behind me is a little old lady in her car. Before I can apologize, she says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, my foot must have slipped off the brake." I look at my bumper. It has a small scratch and there is nothing on her car. So, I say, "Don't worry about it. There doesn't appear to be any damage. You have a good day." When I was in high school, I was at my boyfriend's house and there was a bat in the garage. We knew it was there, but I was the last one in through the basement door that led through the garage, and I left the door open a little too long and the bat immediately went for the open doorway. Who knows why? And then it made it upstairs through 2 more open doorways and into the addition part of the house that has cathedral ceilings. There were a few people in the house besides his family, and at some point I heard his parents yelling from upstairs, "WHO the frick let a bat in the house." I told my boyfriend I had to get home, got in my car, drove away. I was just imagining a baseball bat just flying up the stairs. Can't be the only one. When I was about 8, I had one of the super bouncy balls you got from restaurant toy machines. I was outside one day playing with the kids next door while my dad talked to their parents. These neighbors had a small child, probably around 2-4 years old, so me being a child decided it would be a good idea to see just how high this ball bounced. So as you would guess, I pulled my arm back about as far as my spine would let me and launched it directly at the ground. As it bounced into the sky, which I presumed was the speed of light, I lost it in the sky somewhere. Mere seconds later I heard a small thud. I turned around to see our neighbor's infant child on the ground screaming and crying. I instinctively turned around and made the excuse I was tired so that I could go back inside. No one suspected a thing. I instinctively turned around, as any natural-born hitman does after their first kill. I got really drunk one night and had to take the train home. Halfway home I feel sick and stand up to hop out at the next stop and maybe puke in a garbage can or something. As the train slowly rolls to a stop and a line forms before the door, a mouthful of vomit rushes forth. I'm still on the train and have to hold it in my cheeks. Something I thought only happened on TV. Right as we leave the train I'll lose it. Chunks fly all over the girl in front of me, who luckily was wearing a coat and backpack. The dude behind me either didn't care or didn't see, but I dipped and finished my business. I do feel bad about it though. I'm usually not such a dang scumbag. I can see her side of the story popping up on a "what is the most disgusting thing that has ever happened to you" thread. Working construction on a college campus over the summer, I was given the opportunity to operate a forklift. Second time I drove it, backed into a metal fence post and bent it halfway over, with a university employed maintenance worker being the only witness. He told nobody. I told nobody. Worked the whole summer and continued operating heavy machinery. That's the way, son. Drove a forklift into an extremely expensive metal large bay door at a chemical plant being built. The plant took in salt and made a chemical for bleaching paper. Highly corrosive, and the entire place was made of titanium and other expensive non-rusting materials. The door was brand new and it was hung in place but not serviceable yet, and as such only closed about 3/4 of the way. I smashed into it and it got bent. No one saw it, so I just carried on. It was weeks before the technicians returned to wire the door controllers and noticed it was too bent to work. There was a huge witch hunt to find out what happened, but when they first tried using the door it moved enough before jamming to obfuscate the damage I caused. So the forklift was never tied to the damage, and as such I wasn't even considered a suspect. The whole door was removed and sent back to the fabricators. It couldn't be fixed and was wrote off for scrap. It was a custom door and replacing cost over $100,000. Plus the original cost of the door. Plus all the extra labor. Eventually, when the project was complete, the general contractor was sued by the company financing the project for some cost overruns, the door being a big part of it, all because I was too lazy to look up going through a doorway. Hope you haven't given away too many details. Someone might figure it was you, but yeah, that's prob the most costly frick up on here. Good on your mate. 9th grade doing tech for the school musical. Spilled a shitload of paint on stage left, covered it with something, and ran away. Next day, I come back and the stage is completely clean. I'm sorry, kind-hearted person who cleaned up my mess. I would have done it myself, but most of the actors were upperclassmen and I was scared they'd make fun of me. Man, as a theater person I hate you just a little bit. Own up to mistakes. I pulled the fire alarm at the public library. I was 5 or 6 at the time, and to be honest I wasn't great at reading and emergency exit only proved too difficult. I immediately recognized my mistake and ran to hide among the paperbacks in the romance novel section until a kindly librarian lady came over to me and asked if I knew what happened. I'm sure they didn't suspect me at all. I always feel bad for the little kids that this happens to. It's really not that big of a deal. We just close the door and turn it off. But the alarms are crazy loud and the look on their faces is expensive therapy levels of terror. We had one poor little kid start crying because they thought they'd be banned from the library and sent to jail. Leaving high school one winter day, there was a double set of glass with metal frame doors. The person in front of me was far enough ahead that the first set of doors had already closed, but the second outside door was still on its way. I open the first door and take 3 giant steps to make the outside door, catch it with my foot on the bottom of the frame but really near the glass, and see it crack and spider web up to the middle pushbar, and I just kept walking. I don't break stride. I don't glance behind. I just get to my car and drive away. When I was in middle school, the girl I had a crush on put her foot through a glass door. She was trying to kick it open by hitting the metal bar you open it with. Her foot missed, hit the glass and crash. She took off running. I worked at a piano refurbishing place. Got to fix the cracks in the soundboards and drill new holes for the tightening pegs. There were other people that fixed the brass plate that held all the strain of the wires. Anyway, I was supposed to secure everything in place before tightening the strings. Piano strings put an incredible strain on a piano. I didn't, and when we came in the next morning, the frame was severely bent. Blame time came around and I acted innocent. Apparently this sort of thing does happen, where one screw breaks and the strain breaks the rest. So it was chalked up as a freak incident. I broke that piano. It was an upright, so no biggie, but I was too much of a P to fess up to it. Cast iron. There is something like 20 tons of tension in the strings, I think. On the very first day at my current job, I took a rambunctious crap that clogged up the toilet. Before I'd even started cleanup and dropped TP in it, the water rose up until I could feel the breath of Poseidon on my starfish, and I wiped up something akin to the Exxon Valdez disaster and waited with bated breath until the bathroom was empty and made a hasty exit. No witnesses, because I'll be goddamned if I'm the toilet clogger on day one in the office. I did a quick recon mission by the bathroom a few minutes later and saw that it was closed for maintenance, and to this day not a soul in that office knows of my sin. And I wiped up something akin to the Exxon Valdez disaster. I'm crying right now, oh my god. Oh my god, I have one. I never have a story. My sister's boyfriend had just come over after work and he always parks behind me, so I have to look for his car when I leave so I don't hit it. Well, I hit it one night at like 2 AM. I hit it hard enough that the whole car moved about a foot. I go out and look at the damage I've caused and there's a big red streak. My car is red, and the front plate thing where the tire is disconnected from the rest of the car, but only about an inch, so it's not too noticeable. Well, anyways, I scuff out the scratch for about an hour and just kinda pushed the plate closer and went back inside and didn't say a word. The next morning he got peed because he thought he had gotten away scot-free from a parked red car he had hit the day prior, and he just noticed that it caused damage to his car. Haha, frick yeah. His bad karma was just delayed. You're next, OP. I had a business competitor that would tear down my business signs that cost me time and money. One sign was close to where he lived and he would destroy this sign within hours of it being replaced. So I got some plywood and screwed 100 long sheetrock screws through it to make a spike mat. I put the spike next to the sign and covered it with some leaves. Within 2 hours the sign was destroyed. I removed the spike mat. Later that same day I saw my business competitor at the car races with a really bad limp. I told him it looked like he was having trouble walking. He said nothing. On the way home I drove by his house and his car was in his driveway with 2 flat tires. Score +2 for spikes and revenge. I'm an engineer and one job involved buying, on employer expense account, all variety of Apple products for total disassembly teardown for tech research purposes. This destroyed each product because they got taken apart down to each nut and bolt. If product was expensive I would then, on my own time, reassemble each only to point that exterior appeared normal, but of course the entire insides were scrambled. Product non-functional. Then I would walk into Apple Store, W my receipt and say I just bought this a few days ago, but when I tried to power up it does not work. Please look at it. Their geniuses at their genius desk would always call me back within a few days and say, we cannot fix it, so we are giving you a completely brand new unit. That's how our home got outfitted with new Apple stuff like MacBooks, iPads, iPhones, iMac, Mac Mini. That's actually quite clever. Make it so it looks fine under inspection because they aren't hardware engineers, so wouldn't spot any loose connectors or tampered with hardware. I live in a beach town and we have annual sand castle contests, not just castles, BTW, and I was tossing a football around. As you can likely imagine, I threw it too far and it hit someone's creation. What you can't imagine is how utterly amazing this guy's lighthouse looked. He was the judge's favorite that far in the competition until my ball sent it crashing to the ground. I seriously hope he isn't a Redditor because he spent almost an entire day on that and lost out on the top prize. I left my ball and just went to the showers. Hey man, he lost a day's time and top prize, but you lost a ball, my friend. You both walked away from something you can never replace. I dropped one of the inventory scanner guns at an old job. Screen flashed black and then went dead. I set it on a shelf and walked away. Didn't say a word to anyone, even after they figured out it was broken. I kicked one with steel-toed boots and threw it in the trash compactor. There was an all-out hunt for it for months. Was once babysitting for a brand new family. I went with the parents and their 2-year-old to the mother's OB-GYN appointment at a hospital. She was pregnant and getting a checkup. The 2-year-old was fussy, so I was walking around the halls with him. I stopped to read something on the wall, unknowingly next to a fire alarm, and he pulled the fire alarm. I panicked and just quickly walked away. It took a couple seconds to go off and no one saw us, so no one knew it was him, and I was too scared to say anything. In nursery we had a sandbox and a similarly large container of water for us to play with toy boats and stuff. We were allowed to transfer water to the sandbox to help with building, but weren't allowed to put sand in the water, because why the frick would you do that? One day I picked up a little shovel, scooped up some sand and just tipped it into the water and just watched it. I had committed the forbidden act only to realize nothing happened other than it was a minor nuisance to look at. Teacher saw the sand and yelled out asking who did it. No one spoke. This is the first time I've ever told anyone this. What a horrible thing to do. I dropped by my parents' house once when no one was home so I could use the bathroom and get a drink. I went to the fridge to scope out their drink selection, and when I opened their fridge door it just fell off its hinge and crashed to the floor. My parents keep a million condiments in their fridge door and they all broke when the door fell, so the kitchen was an orgy of mustard and pickles and mayo plus 1,000 other sauces. I just quietly left and acted horrified when mum told me their fridge door had fallen off when they were at work. My friends and I in high school stopped by my house to hang out after class. Being teenage boys, we got to goofing around and the resulting horseplay ended with my friend on my back and me running backwards into my front door. It shattered off the frame. Panicking, we put it back together and left in a hurry. Hours later my mother called and said someone tried to rob our house. I agreed. Emptied quite a lot of vodka from a bottle in the kitchen and filled it with water, thinking I'd never get found out as my parents rarely drank. Well, Christmas came, family members were around for drinks and they got the vodka out. I was thinking crap, I'm going to be in for it, when my stepdad knocked the full bottle off the cupboard side and it smashed and went all over the floor. Flushed the toilet at sleepaway camp and it overflowed and crap water flowed through the bunk and under kids' beds, ruining their clothes and crap. I'm like, sour. God damn it, Angela. Reddit newbie but just too good to pass up. I worked in a Mexican bar upstairs from a convenience store. One boring day I got in to clean behind the glass washer. All was fine though it turns out I didn't reconnect it as well as I should. For the next 2 months there would be puddles of water leaking all through our bar, and also into the shop below. Turns out the entire concrete subflooring between our 2 spaces was full of water and the ensuing repairs drying fucksking about cost approx $20k. I never owned up to this, and nonetheless still gained a glowing review for being such an exemplary employee in my time there. I accidentally started a race war. I was with my brother at a metal show in downtown Denver. Company. I was drunk and being an butthole and saw a pair of cheap sunglasses on the ground. My inner destructive 6-year-old boy mode kicked into high gear and I just stomped on the glasses for no reason. Thought nothing of it. Fast forward about 10 minutes and a clearly inebriated woman and her large skinhead boyfriend, decorated with clearly racist tattoos, are being thrown out of the venue. The woman is belligerently yelling, "Where the frick are my sunglasses? What the frick? Where are they?" My brother and I lock eyes. Remember the fricking glasses I just destroyed. She sees the shattered remains of the plastic glasses on the ground and proceeds to go full rage mode, accusing every person of breaking her glasses. All of a sudden about 6 more skinhead dudes roll out of the venue and coincidentally a large group of black people were walking by. Out of nowhere, one of the skinheads yells something to the effect of "That N stole your fricking sunglasses." A gigantic brawl breaks out after this. Roughly 8-10 cop cars and 2 ambulances roll up after what was all out pandemonium. All because I stepped on those fricking sunglasses. Nah, that's just skinheads showing they got just as much brain as hair. Not exactly my frick up per se, but I worked at a Mervyn's for a while in high school. We used to have to do hourly bathroom checks and sign off on it when we were done. If there was anything wrong, it was the responsibility of whoever did the check that hour to see to it. So when I went in for a bathroom check and saw that someone had taken a crap in the urinal, I just walked right back out and didn't sign off on the sheet. The next guy who went in after me made a big fuss about it, alerted management, and got stuck with having to fish the turd out. I was at a party in high school at my rich friend's house. There was a sliding glass door with a second screen door, and the glass was open, so I decided to walk on through. Of course, I kicked a big butthole in the screen that was closed. I glanced around and nobody noticed, so I opened it, went outside and sat by the door, closing the screen behind me. But not 30 seconds later, my friend walked into it ever so slightly, literally brushed her nose into it before she stopped. I, of course, took the opportunity to blame her for kicking the hole in the screen. She was hot, though, so nobody gave a crap. Also, she had an accent, so no harm, no foul. So many irrelevant details in this story. I worked at a place that had coffee machines that actually dropped the cup down and then filled it from inside the machine. Anyway, I went to have a job interview at another place. Their coffee machines looked even more high-tech. So I decided to just hit the buttons and let it go. Wound up spilling an entire cup down the front of the machine in the floor. I just moseyed away like it was a malfunction. Just yesterday I was food shopping with my 2-year-old. I grabbed a package of blueberries and handed them to my son to hold, and he, being the good helper that he is, held them for about 10 seconds and tossed them into the back of the cart, causing the package to open and about 15 blueberries to go flying onto the floor. I quickly closed the package so as to prevent further spillage, grabbed one of those bags you use for fruit and scooped all of the blueberries off the ground and into the plastic bag. Once they were cleaned up, I took the package of the remaining blueberries, sneaked over to where I got them from, and exchanged them for a fresh and opened package. Whoever ends up buying the package I put back, I owe you about 15 blueberries. I was checking out some weird coconut lotion thing in the makeup aisle of a CVS and lost my grip on it. I went to catch it but overshot and ended up slamming the bottle onto the ground, scattering oily lotion everywhere. I put the bottle back on the display and bolted. Haven't been back since. Kicked a soccer ball through a neighbor's window on accident. This was 11 years ago. I still live in the same house and so does the neighbor. He still doesn't know it was me. Oh, he knows. One day you are going to move out, and wrapped up on your porch will be the ballers are going away gift. In 5th grade, we took a field trip to take a riverboat down to some historic battlefield. As we were sailing along, a bunch of us decided it'd be tons of fun to spit off the side of the boat for some reason. I managed to create a pretty big glob for a 10-year-old girl and spit it over the side, and then a strong breeze picked it up and hurled it into the face of a girl I didn't like who was standing about 3 people down from me. I noped the frick out of there. As I walked away, I could hear her loudly complaining to her teacher that someone spit into her face. That's right, someone sure did. Backed into my stepdad's brand new truck. We had a tight driveway, and all of a sudden I wasn't moving anymore. Oh crap. Got out to take a look and there were no noticeable marks. Thank God. Pulled forward, readjusted, and rode off into the sunset unnoticed. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.